Chapter 3. Sandhaven welcomes you. The letters leapt from the banner crowning the entrance to Main Street. Soll paused. With every step, the stiffness and aches climbed another degree, growing with a stinging panic that refused to subside. He twisted around to search the darkness. Still nothing. The lights dulled his flaring pain, pulling his gaze back to taste their glowing enchantments. Beyond the threshold, an enthralling spectacle unfolded. The sign invited, but Main Street beckoned and reeled him inside. His body submitted before pausing again. There were no treasures to offer, no delivery in his hands. The last valuable thing was shattered and discarded along with his own body, now cracked, rattled, and leaking. But gazing at the scene again dissolved any lingering fear. The strip bathed in the radiant glow of stringed bulbs that zigzagged above the teeming commercial mosaic. Red brick accented the white molding of a small cafe. Purple shutters dressed the cobalt stucco of a craft shop. Canary yellow siding complemented the white awning of a boutique, standing parallel to the next dazzling building. A charming row of shop displays nestled beneath title signs as bold and unique as their facades. Soll caught a look in one direction to capture the strange fixtures while the crisp, inky pavement tugged his admiration in another. The bones of the past were buried deep below Sandhaven's stunning new flesh. Melodic chatter floated overhead as he ambled through the crowd, the air rich with the aromas of pastries and flowers. Storefront doors flung open, ringing with bell chimes as cheery groups poured out one after another. Deep within the sea of new faces, Soll was thrust from the fantasy. The stares probed from behind and beside him, the occasional gawking among more subtly lingering eyes. His skin stretched tight with rising inflammation and insecurity. Head hung, he stared down, pushing the bike over the asphalt as the voices around him turned and quickened with exhilaration. The electrified atmosphere moved with a current that drew the collective focus to a single point. He lifted his eyes to see what held their attention. A marquee stretched high above the other buildings. Twinkling bulbs encircled the title, glowing like a fresh brand on dark leather. Soll's eyes danced down the sign that sang the name into the air. The Claiborne. The theater perched on the corner like a treasure for all to behold. Polished bronze trim decorated the entrance. The white brick frontage glowed like pearls under the marquee lights, luring the crowds into the building's mouth. Soll slowed. Goosebumps rose on his skin as the initial marvel began to fade. The enchanted sea of awestruck faces suddenly turned distant and strange. They approached the doors without pause, but his inflamed body froze. The others continued forward, floating into the lobby to survey their new territory. Anyone could enter, but it was made for them. Their finely pressed outfits complemented the velvet-covered walls and the ornate red carpet. Exclamations spilled from inside, studded with pretentious terms he'd seen in Charlie's articles. They moved comfortably in their new space like settlers reaching land they were soon to claim. Soll stayed rooted, the luster suddenly resolving into a repulsive tinge, foreign and exclusive. He searched around to regain his bearings, looking for a place to rest. Breaking from the stream of people, he ducked into the first intersection and followed the street into a silent oasis. His heart lifted at the sight of the storefront's title. What used to be a boxy brick exterior was now a handsome auburn facade. Dale's Diner dressed the front window sign, ornamented with a painted mermaid sleeping above it. He guided his bike down the alley beside it. The strip's ethereal haze peeled away, and the taste of blood returned to his mouth. Gathering the bottom of his shirt, he dabbed it on the tender points of his face. Tiny red smears appeared at the touch. He winced. The horror of the past hour returned in each of his senses. Main Street receded into the distance. Shadows trapped him with unfurling recall. The glint of the knife, the crashing fists, the prickling blades of grass wildly moving at his back, the shimmering orbs in the darkness. A flood of white light suddenly burst from the wall beside him. From the rays walked a short, stocky silhouette. "Whoa!" Her voice gasped with childlike inflection, the stuffed trash bag falling from her hand. "You're looking pretty gnarly there, sir. We all have those days when we're not looking our best, but you took all those days, rolled them into one, and face-planted right into it." Her narrowed eyes studied him from behind thick, black-rimmed glasses. Yeah," Soll uttered. "I'm fine, I think." The girl tilted her head as she continued her examination. She reached out a curious finger to probe the pitiful specimen before her. "I respectfully and completely disagree with that assessment. That mug of yours is looking nothing short of ghastly from this end. You need some cleaning up. Why don't you use the bathroom inside?" Soll hesitated, stepping backward until a tug by her hand guided him toward the light. "Come inside. The least I can do is make sure you're not out on the biggest night of the year looking like leftover berry cobbler." Before he could resist, she pulled him inside. A voice echoed from the opposite end of the room. "Andy girl, you better close that door before Mr. Rat finds his way in again. I don't have time nor the patience to be chasing him around this kitchen. Not tonight." Fluorescent lights bathed the tiled walls and chrome countertops with a sterilizing sheen. Snaps and pops of boiling oil joined with the sharp clang of metal scraping across iron. The sizzling grill hissed with savory whiffs filling the air, a flame licking up the wall under a vented hood. The girl gestured for Soll to follow. "Bathroom's through those double doors. Then it's the first door on the left," the girl pointed. "Give me a shout if you need any help. I'm no doctor, but I can slap on a mean bandage." Before he could slip through the swinging doors, a voice hollered out from the other side of the kitchen. "I know that ain't who I think it is." He stopped and pivoted. An awkward grin spread across Andy's face as her eyes shifted from the kitchen to Soll. A head popped out from around one of the metal shelves. "Little Ingersoll," the old woman lit up. "Is that you there?" It didn't take more than a moment for him to recognize her. "Miss Claudine, how are you doing?" A full smile and high brows animated her almond skin. Thick gray locks fell by her side as she leaned her short body around the counter. Her smile dropped. "My Lord! What in God's name happened to you, Junior?" she exclaimed, arms outstretched to hold him. "I just had an accident riding into town," Soll murmured. "Kind of a bad spill." Her hands tenderly tilted his face to the light. Every angle was met with restrained gasps. "On your face? Poor baby. I know that must have hurt." Her warm voice rested like a liniment on his bruised marbled skin. She guided him further inside, with Andy following close behind. "I'm getting you some ice. There's some right here in the freezer." The bustling kitchen roared around them. Staff scurried in different directions toward a hot stove or a countertop, only sparing a passing glance as they traveled to their next station. Despite the chaos, the tension bound up in Soll's body quickly loosened under her touch. "Will somebody watch the steak I got grilling over there? I just need a couple of minutes," Ms. Claudine yelled across the kitchen, then glanced at Soll. "Or maybe more. Why don't you just go ahead and finish that one up? And Andy girl, keep an eye on the guests and let me know if there's another wave. Shouldn't be too much trouble. It's almost 8 o'clock and the new folks are probably all heading out. Thank you, baby." Andy left the kitchen and the others resumed their activity. Ms. Claudine handed over a bag of ice wrapped in a towel, and Soll gently pressed it against his forehead. "So," she said, resting her hand on her hip, "what'd you say happened to you?" "I just hit a pothole on the road on the way here. Didn't see it coming. It just came up out of nowhere, and by the time I realized it, it was too late." She raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that, Junior?" Only a few held the privilege of calling him that. Soll forced himself to meet her eyes. She didn't need to know. Yeah, pothole. On Sycamore Road, after the turnoff from our street. He hoped some truth might obscure the fiction. Well, I'll have to make sure I keep an eye out for that one. I will too. I can make a map of all the spots in Sandhaven for the Frontier Group to fix up as they're building all the new houses. Otherwise, I'll probably hit it and end up looking like the victim of a rogue primate attack too, Andy interjected from behind. Hush, girl, this ain't about you. Miss Claudine rolled her eyes. Why don't you make sure no one out there is missing anything? That dining room is more packed than a can of sardines. Andy pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose and backed out of the kitchen, sneaking one last look at Soll before she left. Does your mother know what happened? You need me to call her for you? No, thanks, Miss Claudine, Soll replied. She doesn't know because I haven't had time to call her. I just rolled into town, so once I can get myself cleaned up a little bit, I'll do that. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Thank you for the ice. No problem at all, Junior. When I saw you through the door, I said, I know that face. She pointed her finger in the air and stared off into the exact spot he had stood minutes before. There's no mistaking that Casey look. Always so handsome, just like your dad and your granddad. You couldn't have any other name but theirs. It just wouldn't be right. A smile edged its way across Soll's mouth that he tried to hide. By the upswing in Miss Claudine's tone, she recognized that her mission had been accomplished. And you know it's true, too. Your mother must tell you all the time. Sometimes, Soll nodded. And she wouldn't be lying, that's for sure. Let me get more towels for you, Junior. Your nose is bleeding a bit. Miss Claudine rushed to the dispenser on the other side of the kitchen. So how long you going to be in town? Haven't seen you at church recently. Just your mother with your brother. Y'all are both in college now? No, just him. Oh, you already graduated? Never started. Soll battled a pang of unease. I wanted to pursue some other stuff I was interested in, but things didn't work out. In only moments of adjusting the new towel to plug his nose, it was blood-soaked. Miss Claudine shrugged before offering another. Well, maybe it was for the best. Y'all young people around here always want to take off the moment they're old enough. But it can be nice spending more time with the family. You don't get that time back. And I think it'll be good for you Caseys in particular. Time to take some of the load off your mother. She's doing double duty, taking care of your brother and your father. As the next man of the house, you got to step in and start handling things. Your dad and your granddad were leaders. They always found a way when the chips were down. I know you got it in you. Soll pursed his lips, his eyes shifting past her into the distance. The activity of the kitchen faded to an ambient roar. How's your father doing, by the way? Miss Claudine interrupted. I haven't really gotten a chance to visit him much since I moved back, he admitted. She nodded solemnly. That's too bad, but I understand. It must be hard to see him like that. Oh, poor Kimmy. She sure has some strength in her. It's one thing to lose your body and another thing to lose your mind. I pray all the time that he'll remember everyone again, just like I'm praying that the strength returns to your brother's legs to let him walk again. The power to unlock both is inside. I know that full well. We're just waiting on the Lord to give the keys. I hope you're right. Without warning, she enveloped him, squeezing tight. Don't worry too much, Junior. Just make sure you keep your faith, and your father will come back just like he was before. Miss Claudine reassured with a smile. And I'm dying to see his face when he sees how they're turning this place upside down, you hear me? He's going to fall right out when he finds things happening just like they were before. Before when? I thought Sandhaven used to be just poultry plants, soybeans, and cornfields, Soll said. When I was growing up here, that's exactly what it was, Miss Claudine said. That and a quick stopover for beach travelers to get a bite or spend the night. Folks used to open up their homes for it, and Biggs saw an opportunity in that. Soll shot her a quizzical look. Mayor Biggs? Miss Claudine chuckled. Not the Biggs you know, but his father, Carl. Your dad ever tell you about him? Soll shook his head. Well, just like the one you're thinking of. His dad had some wild ambition and serious savvy outsized for a place like this. We knew something was different about him right when he started inviting anyone looking for work, especially more of us. Miss Claudine tapped the top of her chestnut-toned hand. He started supporting all these new businesses in town, really trying to push Sandhaven into something more. That's what got more folks to stick around for a while. Looking around the kitchen, Soll nodded. That's what brought the diner. Sure did, Junior. Mr. Dale set this place up, then came the B&Bs, your grandfather's pharmacy, and others that didn't make it to now. Old Biggs was going for a whole new look. But a lot of people soured on that after a little while. Soll leaned in slightly with the ice still pushed against his puzzled face. She laughed. I'll put it like this. New Biggs is an odd bird, that's for sure. But old Biggs was a character in himself, clever and calculated as he could be. Everything started feeling a little different after the whole crop of new folks settled in and around town. Word got around, and some of the bitter old folks tried rallying like-minded individuals from nearby towns to try to intimidate the newcomers. And what did they do? Things we saw a lot in those times. Things I'm sure you've read about in books. A stern expression hardened her face for a moment. She shook her head and cleared the thought. And some other real strange things started happening too. People were disappearing, some coming back with injuries and others just leaving town altogether. Other folks swore they were being stalked and terrorized. And one summer, a huge storm rolled up the shore. It was raining and thundering for a few days, like the sky and the earth were splitting open. No one could go outside for fear of not returning. After it ended, folks claimed they couldn't find their animals, or that their property was damaged or stolen. About a week later, there was a rumor going around that someone saw some thing floating in the creek off the Tuskegee River. Soll's widened eyes prompted a pause. Calm down, Junior. It was just a rumor. I didn't see anything, and nobody I know saw it. I don't think we ever even found out who started it. Miss Claudine touched his shoulder. But those rumors started growing so fast they got legs and ran up out of here. Even started scaring more people away from coming to Sandhaven. And that's what the goal was, I suppose. And that was getting under old Biggs's skin. What really got him were the people coming to town and poking around trying to get details. Even some reporters sniffing for a scoop. One of them even tried to confront old Biggs about it in front of everyone. And you know what happened? He was so fed up, he had a fit and started carrying on about a mermaid who got lost running from the storm at sea. Right then and there, he said he would rename Simpsonville into Sandhaven in honor of the lost mermaid. Despite Soll's attempt to diminish his concern, the story painted a vivid picture, infusing itself with the haunting silhouette on the road. Terror pinched his throat as he searched for the words to inquire further. Miss Claudine caught his concern, her eyes widening before a cackle burst from deep within her chest. She gripped her stomach as she nearly collapsed with laughter. Mr. Dale loved that so much he put mermaids all over the diner. She placed her hand over her chest and caught her breath. I think that's why we're still here. So ridiculous that one is. But if we can get the same outcome from Little Biggs, then maybe we'll have another theme to try on so we can survive this next wave of trouble coming our way. Soll peered through the window into the dining room. It looks like you got some good upgrades to help fit in for now. Thank you, Junior. We've been trying to keep up, but it's been hard. We had to change with everything else. Bring in the renovations, look at the markets, get with the times. Adapt is the word. Otherwise, our days in Sandhaven would be numbered like the other places that couldn't hang on. She drew in a breath to explain more, but her message stalled in her throat. Her expression shifted, her eyes grew distant, and her head hung slightly. I hope we can make it. Sometimes it feels like we're hanging on ourselves. Hanging by a thread, she meant. Soll understood the feeling. For all the energy and money invested into trying to change the restaurant into something better, brighter, and different, it might still not have been enough. It survived the worst, but for how much longer? At the back corner of the kitchen, the same looming heartache neared as when Soll sat in his room, dreading the last thread to snap to unravel the family. Well, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. If the diner gets pushed out, I don't doubt the rest of us will be too far behind. We can't let that happen. She smiled, shaking her head. Just like those Casey men, I tell you. Somehow your father's passed that nerve right down to the sons. If I've seen one thing stay the same in this place, it's y'all standing up to problems 100 times your size, trying to fix it all on your own. She leaned in, the lines in her brow a border between intrigue and incredulity. How do you plan on doing that? Soll paused. I just need to get a hold of Mayor Biggs, or Allison Sloan. Just need to talk to them. She threw back her head. Good luck with that, Junior. Little Biggs has nothing else on his mind these days except making this whole thing go off without a hitch. You can try to find him to talk, but people like him only listen to power and money. If you don't got any, then you're just about as important to them as a fly buzzing around their big old heads. And trust me, they'd rather just swap them than keep listening to that buzzing. Her laugh echoed through the kitchen, but it hadn't shaken him. His resolve moved like a brimming pool, and the last traces of pain dissipated from his face. I think he'll listen if I had something important enough to say. I respect the passion, Junior. I admired it in your father and grandfather, too. But it's not just little Biggs who's like this. That's just the way of the world. Scream and shout all we want, but us smaller folks usually won't get our way. I've been on this earth long enough to see some real craziness, and that's something that never changes. Better to focus that energy on the problems staring us in the face, like those roads that seem to be giving you so much trouble. Her rub on his shoulder both soothed and patronized. Say, Junior, you haven't seen anything else too out of the ordinary around town recently, have you? A voice suddenly shot through the racket of the kitchen. Andy charged in with a frantic expression. She waved a small stack of sheets at the edge of the kitchen. Last orders are rolling in, she panted. Come on, folks. Make sure you're working your strongest mixing arms, smoothest chopping hands, and deftest seasoning fingers. We're in the home stretch. Ms. Claudine snapped to attention, snatching the order slips from Andy and passing them out to the others in the kitchen. Instantly, they buzzed around the countertops to the refrigerators and stoves. The room erupted with the sounds of the hissing stove and clanging of pans. All right, Junior, I got to get back to work now. Why don't you let me give you a ride home after all this is done? Soll softened at the offer he didn't even know he needed. Absolutely will. Thanks, Miss Claudine. And I hope to see you back at church one of these days. He grinned and slipped out of the kitchen. Andy trailed him, placing a hand on Soll's shoulder as he headed through the door to the outside. Are you going to be okay? Andy asked. I'll be fine. Well, you might want to just take one more look in the mirror if you're planning for anybody else to see that tragic face of yours. The bathroom's still open, and our water and towels are free. I wish I had some makeup to give you, but I don't know if I have enough blending skills to hide all that. I'll be fine, Soll said. The stains speckling his clothes were as distant from his mind as the aching and swelling that had momentarily dulled to a tolerable throb. The light at the end of the alley coaxed him back towards the herd on Main Street. His pocket bulged with a crumpled letter. He fished it out and smoothed it against the brick wall, kneading furiously as the seconds ticked by. But even with all his strength, it still wasn't right. Anything delivered without the script was as good as garbage. As wrinkles in the letter stared back in chaotic lines, he fought the compulsion to throw it to the ground. Pressing it again, he waited until it passed, and then gently folded it. A scrape along the pavement bounced along the alley's walls, followed by a long screech. Soll whipped around to face the darkness at his back. "My bad. The dumpster's a little loud sometimes." Andy snickered from the shadows, tossing a trash bag into the metal container before heading back into the diner. Her eyes disappeared behind the glare of the streetlight on her glasses. Nothing strange. This stare was human, fully identified. Soll gathered himself. The faster he could finish his journey, the faster he could forget it all. Against the last screaming urges in his aching muscles, he stepped forward to rejoin the procession to the theater.